remember, I think May 3rd was my biggest anti-war rally, and I think we had 3,000 people got arrested because we were going to close down Washington, D.C., and we did. But to process 3,000 people into the system was more than they could handle. We were brought to an armory and processed there, and that's when I think the ACLU sprung up, and they got rid of arrest records because we weren't not legally arrested. When I got arrested, I asked what I was being arrested for, and they said eating a banana, and I said I wasn't eating a banana, and they said, well, you know, that's your friend was, and that's illegal. They can't do that. So I'm not sure, but I think I might have thought up the ACLU during that time, because I thought, well, all these people are going to need lawyers to get rid of their criminal record. But what the ACLU did was that they had them waive the criminal records, and because that would have been illegal anyway. And they charged everybody $10 for that, for that legal advice, or legal whatever it was. And that is probably when I got on somebody's shit list. I'm not sure who. Back in the day, there was the CIA, and that was a fairly new agency. Truman said that if he knew the CIA was going to be like the Nazi Gestapo, he never would have approved the formation of the CIA. When the CIA is so crooked that, you know, and that's why I keep staying on lists of people who they want to watch, because they know, I know just how crooked they are, and they're despicable practices, and they're not legal. They do things that are so illegal that, you know, anybody could really blow the whistle. So if you threaten to blow the whistle, then you're going to be on some kind of you're subversive. In other words, if you want the United States to play by the rules that the United States made up, then you are subversive. Which really is crazy if you think about it. Like, I'm trying to get the United States to play by the rules that they set up, and I'm subversive. I would think that the people who are not following the rules or the laws, they would be the subversive ones. And the other thing that they have done is they will kill you. They can't take you to court because, you know, if you're fighting with them over something that they're doing that's illegal, it is illegal. So they can't go to court. So what happens is they have to kill you and label you a troublemaker. I don't know what I've been labeled. I'm trying to find that out right now. But they will just kill you. Now, Russia has dissidents and they jail them. But the United States doesn't want to do that because we are supposed to be the good guys. I'm finding out more and more and more that we are really not the good guys. Like, I can remember, I got these flies in here, I don't know what. I can remember, oh, I get a little hair thingy. Being told that the United States was the great Satan. A lot of times, well, I did a lot of acting when I was a kid, a lot of acting as a boy until my breasts came in, and when we go to different countries like Taiwan to film The King and I spent my downtime. Now, I finagled my way into that as being the king's son. I was brought there with Rodgers, I think it was Rodgers and Hammerstein, who did the music in case they wanted to do any more songs. They thought that they'd be writing some more songs, and I wrote very well with them. So, and they thought it would be nice for me to go to see Taiwan, but you really couldn't see Taiwan because once you were in the palace, you couldn't go back out because you would probably be killed, because the people there were so poor and the palace was so rich, and the people there felt that you were bad for staying in the palace. You were somehow a bad guy. And so I didn't really, so on my downtime, so I took the job as the king's son, Yul Brenner's son, because they couldn't find, I knew exactly what they wanted. So I tried out while I was there and got the part. But when I wasn't acting, oh, and I also did, I also was Topsy in the version of Uncle Tom's Cabin that we did. But there's a lot of downtime, and we also wrote some extra songs. We did do that too. I don't know. I was always hyperactive, I guess. So I spent a lot of time talking to the priests, the Buddhist priests, and finding out about their philosophy and religion and politics. And they were, not happy that we were there. And they were insistent that the United States was the great Satan. And I was, I was quite young. I was like 8 or so. And I kept saying, oh no, the United States are the good guys. We're the good guys. And the priests were like, no, you're not. So I just thought, well, they just don't understand. They don't understand us, Too bad. But it was that they did understand, and they were trying to get me to see their point of view, and I was just too, I guess I understood enough that I realized, no, maybe the United States wasn't always the good guys. So, and we did do some terrible things when that movie gained us access to the political people who were in power, and I guess the United States made some kind of a deal with Taiwan while we were there, and that would be chalk one up for me to get the Taiwanese government to talk to the United States. It was because I kind of negotiated for them, and before that, like I said, I was with the Kennedys for quite a bit, and so fast forward a little bit. Oh yeah, Johnson. After Kennedy was killed, Johnson inherited the war. We went into war with Vietnam, and that was all part. That's why Kennedy was killed, because he wasn't going to go to war. So once they killed him, the CIA killed him, And John Alexander was one of the gunmen, and I was on the grassy knoll, and but then my memory would get erased, so I was helpless to do anything. It was horrible. It was horrible. That was so set up. That was a horrible day. Anyway, so then I helped Johnson get the Civil Rights Act passed, and some other good stuff. He did, Johnson, in the pile of papers for the transition, it was 3 days, he said it was 3 days of him signing papers. And they would say, this one says this, and he'd sign it, and he's a lawyer. And he said, and I knew better. And I should not have just signed these things. But after like the third day, he was so exhausted that he wasn't really reading them carefully. And one of the papers toward the end there was to send troops to Vietnam. So without knowing it, the military had him sign something that said he would send troops to Vietnam. And since it wasn't a war, we didn't declare war. It was a police action, and everything works a little bit differently for that. So what Johnson wanted to do was do as much good as he possibly could while he was president, and we did the so he called me, and we did the Civil Rights Act and quite a few things. And I really think that Johnson would have been known as our best president if it were not for that Vietnam War. And he was sad every day. Every time I talked to him, he was very upset that they did that to him and to the country and to poor Vietnam. So the president does not have all the power. The military does. That's why I am on the hit list, #1. On the hit list. Could dance to me. I'm a catchy tune. So now fast forward to Barack Obama. I didn't get to talk to him until he was the primaries with Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton. And I had given advice to Bernie Sanders and to Donald Trump. But Donald Trump was so insane that I just completely wrote him off. I just thought, he thinks he's going to be president, but there's just no way. And the way things had been set up for the GOP to cheat, he probably would not have won. But because he hated women, I said, well, why don't you hire a transvestite? And then people would think that you can talk to a woman. He couldn't talk to women. So there was Kelly Conway, who was a transvestite, and little did I know how talented she was. Very, very manipulative, and I think part of the reason why she became a woman was because she could flirt her way into situations that she otherwise wouldn't be able to get into. And she changed that vote, and she got Trump to win. And that's why it didn't bother her that he was a misogynist, because she's got a penis. And that's why he was able to talk with her. It looked like he's able to talk to a woman because she looks like a woman. At any rate, I did give him some wonderful advice, and the whole time he kept saying, I have 5 guns on me, I have 6 knives, and each of these guys have 10 guns on them. I mean, so it was very clear he would kill me, and there'd be nothing that Rita could do about it if he did. So I had to give him some advice, and turns out, Make America Great Again was as good a slogan as I thought it was when I gave it to him. But I really never thought in a million years, even with cheating, that he would be able to become president. So, there you have it. Now, I was kept away from Barack Obama because he was a puppet of John Alexander's, and John knew that I could maybe get through to him and turn the puppet against him. So there's a lot of corruption in the government and in the military. So much so that they kill people all the time. They don't put people in jail because they don't have a legal leg to stand on. So they have to kill people. And that's, they have killed Steve Jobs. Mostly good people. They like to kill good people because good people might give them a problem. Especially if the good people like me, like me, not, yeah, and they kill people who act like me and also who like me, because I'm very persuasive and I can get things done. So they have to get rid of the people who had any kind of power at all and who like me. And so there is a long list. Michael Jackson, but Michael Landon, Little House on the Prairie guy, he would have been a big help. Steve Jobs would have been a big help. Just a whole bunch of people. Oh, Grimmy, Christine Grimmy. I hope I have that right. I'm sorry. Was a crusader for peace and justice and the American way. So they had to kill her. And, believe me, they tried to kill me, gosh, I would say 10 times a year. I'd get almost killed a lot, and then God would bring me back to life. So he definitely has some kind of plan for me, and I don't think this was it. But this is the worst it's been. So I married Peter Mickelson in 1979 and worked for the cult without knowing it for many years, 22 years. And worked for them before that. My parents really hated me. I think I was unplanned and unexpected, and my mother just had been brought up as the child called it. She was the one in her family who got abused, and she was going to make sure I was the one in our family who got abused. So the fact that I would get abducted and used to act or whatever, very early I was abducted and used as a someone as a baby who they could molest and rape. So I've always had these horrifying experiences my whole life. But I think that what John Alexander was afraid of was if I got together with Barack Obama, that I would get through to him and point out that he was being manipulated, and because this was after 2008, was after I found out all that information about what had happened to me. So I would have been able to pinpoint exactly what was happening to Barack. And they couldn't have that. So they filled him up with these ideas that I was some kind of a pervert and a dissident and all these things that that they have made up about me. But as it turned out, Barack, enjoyed torture. In fact, he enjoys it so much that he has my daughter Liberty tortured routinely just to watch her scream. And this is something that one of the NSA agents, who should have become a general, told me that he just watches over and over. He'll watch for hours Liberty screaming for mercy. So he had seen Liberty at a poster contest for Martin Luther King Jr. Her students came up with the best poster for Martin Luther King, and so he wanted to meet her, but he was told that she was shy. Now, I am shy. But she is, I'm not as shy as some people are really shy. But she is not shy. No. Libby likes the limelight. She likes to be seen. And I kind of walk around thinking I want to be invisible. But they told him that she was too shy to go on stage. And I remember her saying, I don't know why they didn't have me go on stage, Mommy. They had all the other teachers on stage, but my kids won, and they should have had me on stage. And do you think it's because I'm white? And I said, I don't know. I kind of thought it had something to do with the cult, and it did. But it was because Barack Obama would have wanted to use her in the education part of the cabinet. So on my guy who would bring the microphone when I was talking to the different people, like George Lucas and Adam Levine and of course Barack Obama and Dick Cheney. I talked with, I didn't talk directly to Peter, my ex-husband, who Barack said he liked my ex-husband because he would kill prostitutes and strippers. Now what, and he said he felt that Peter was doing God's work or his work or something. So Barack also thinks he's a god. So this is the dynamic we've got going on now. We've got corruption like mad in the military, just so corrupt. And so many of these countries that are having these elections that are rigged. I mean, it's just like country after country after country. Nobody can figure out how these people are winning, and they know that it's being rigged, but they can't seem to stop it. And I'm sure that anytime somebody comes close to being able to stop it, that that they get killed in these countries all around the world. So, I forget. I'll pick this up again. This is plenty long right now. But I'm going to have to out Barack. I liked him. I thought he was a good president. The thing I didn't like was that he said he was going to shut down Gitmo, Guantanamo Bay. There's a prison there where we torture prisoners. And I didn't know. I mean, he says he doesn't like torture, and he says he wants to close down Guantanamo. But I didn't know that he was a regular visitor there and enjoyed torturing the prisoners. And he's, like, I had him up on this pedestal that I thought, well, great, you know, we have this black president who looks black. You know, I thought the first black president would look like Harry Belafonte or something. You know, we're kind of half and half. But he looks black. So that was a good thing. And also the other good thing to know about our country is that the percents that he won by, he won 82% of the vote the first election. And his rival got 8%. Or 10%, but not much. And then the second time he was elected, he got 78% of the vote. So it's just that the GOP couldn't come up with a decent candidate, and because they're trying to be corrupt, they're corrupt, and so they can't just let whoever's going to win. They have to have one of their satanic people in there. And it always was. It always was. It was the Republicans who have, what do you call those? Morals and objectives, like the Satanic Church. So the Satanic Church is the church that will get you elected. Now they use the other churches. Seventh-day Adventists are also satanic, and born-again Christians. No, I'm trying to think of the Adventists. They're satanic. So the Republicans go after the satanic vote, and that includes a lot of the Southern Baptists. Those racist churches will usually vote Republican, and it's all smoke and mirrors, though. It's what so Trump is a perfect example of the smoke and mirrors. Like, the whole time I was advising him, he said, well, what should I say to become president? And I was telling him some real good advice. I was telling him. And he kept saying, well, you know, and then what will people expect me to do? And I said, well, you know, and then you know, things that you could actually do would be this, this, and this, and talking about, you know, getting things made in America again, I thought. That would be good. And so he used those things to run on and made it very clear he had no intention of doing those things, and that he would have other advisors also in the Satanic Church who would advise him what to really do when he's president. So the things he